right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I have for you guys today, I think you guys can guess what it is. Chris Bumstead, your reigning, defending Classic Physique Olympia champion, posted another physique update today at about 4 weeks out from the 2021 Mr. Olympia, posting a side chest photo. Now, a lot of what we've seen from Chris has been upper body stuff. He has posted some lower body updates, but mostly what we've seen is how his upper body is looking, and he's looked pretty good in the upper body. And his legs look just as good. His legs look pretty big here. And I think that's one of the things that really solidifies Chris as one of the best in classic physique, because there's a lot of classic guys that have great upper bodies, very classic upper bodies in the sense that they have a great V-taper, a small waist, maybe some really good peaks to their biceps in some of those classic shots. But I think a lot of classic competitors seem to be held back by the size of their legs. Now, obviously, you don't need to have men's open bodybuilding size legs in classic, but being balanced and having a lower body that matches at least your upper body is important in classic. It's important for proportion. And proportion is another very important part of the judging of classic, and Chris, I think, demonstrates that. While he's got an insane upper body, crazy round chest, crazy round delts, he's got a vacuum pose, V-taper, small waist, all that good stuff. But while he's got this super classic upper body, and he's got this pretty good size for a classic guy, his lower body matches. And I think that's very important. And that's my takeaway from this photo, is seeing the size of his legs, his quad and hamstring separation here. Just look at the size of his legs for a classic guy. He's got it. I mean, he just is the complete package in classic physique. But next up in the news, I want to give a Chris Bumstead comparison here with a guy that I think is going to give Chris a run for his money one day soon at the Olympia. I think this guy, Bryan Jones, I think he is one of the best up-and-comers in classic physique right now. Now, Bryan is getting ready for the Arnold Classic and the Olympia, so he will be stepping on stage sooner than Chris will. But this is a recent side chest, and granted, this is kind of a classic variation of a side chest. You've got both your wrists and hands rotated downward in that variation, and in the side chest, you're kind of clasping your other wrist. So that's the main difference, so keep that in mind. But look how insane Bryan Jones looks in this pose. His legs are on point. Upper body is insane. He almost has a men's open bodybuilder-esque upper body, but while maintaining classic proportions, small waist, V-taper, great flow to his physique. But the direction that classic seems to be headed is in the direction of a Chris Bumstead physique, a taller guy, a little bit of a bigger guy. The weight limit is increased the taller you are, and it makes these guys look bigger because they are bigger. So I think that what we're seeing from Bryan would give Chris Bumstead a run for his money. And I think this year, I think the top three is going to be very different this year. I really want to see Bryan and Chris in the same call-out at this year's Olympia. I think Bryan at this point is better than Bryan. And kind of my early prediction right now is Bryan Jones cracking the top three at this year's Olympia. All right, guys, I want to give a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Golden Bar, a protein bar brought to you by Sadik and Chef Physique. Now, I'm very picky with the companies that I'm willing to work with on this channel because I want it to be a good fit. And what better fit could we have than a product brought to you by an IFBB pro himself in Sadik. So if you guys are fans of Sadik, buying his product, this bar, is a great way to do so. And that's why I jumped at the opportunity to support this product, because I always want to give back to bodybuilding and bodybuilders. So you can use code 20NICKMIL for 20% off your order from Golden Bar. There will also be a link in the description below that will take you to their website. Now, this bar has 18 grams of protein per bar and 241 calories. The flavor that I've tried is the chocolate peanut butter flavor, and as you can see, I got this a day ago. I've already eaten several out of the box. I think they're fantastic. For me personally, one of the things that I like about protein bars, my personal preference, is a bar like this. The texture of a bar like this that's a little bit harder, has a little bit more crunch to it, and has a little bit more of a solid feel to it compared to a bar that's more squishy and caramely and chewy and stringy like that. I don't really enjoy that as much as I enjoy a bar like this that's got kind of a natural, nutty, hard, crunchy flavor to it. So if you want to support the channel and you want to support Sadik, the code is 20NICKMIL, and there is a link in the description box below. Now, another bodybuilder who I feel is very Chris Bumstead-esque and is also getting ready for the Arnold Classic. He will be competing against Bryan Jones in about a week and a half. Logan Franklin, a taller bodybuilder. He's trying to fill out that weight class. He's trying to put on a little bit more size, come in fuller, come in bigger. He posted this update. Well, he sent me this update of him hitting a side chest as well and put that up side by side with Bumstead. Very similar. But I still think one of the advantages that Logan has in a lot of these poses is his arms, particularly his bicep. Really the only remaining weak point, in my opinion for Chris, the only big issue is the peaks on his biceps. Now, of course, he's increased the size of his arms. His biceps are still good enough to look really good in a lot of poses. But against the guy that has really good, really tall bicep peaks for classic like Logan does, Logan pulls off a lot of these poses in a very uniquely impressive way to the peaks of his arms. Now, granted, the side chest is called the side chest for a reason. You're looking at the chest, of which Chris Bumstead has a very dominant one, but you're also looking at the profile of the entire physique from the side, the legs and the arms and the delts in the chest. So it's just something to consider there. Two fantastic classic physique bodybuilders will be taking the stage in a couple weeks, and I really think both of them eventually will give Chris a run for his money on the Olympia stage. See, I'm a huge Chris Bumstead fan, but I don't think he's unbeatable. I don't think he's infallible. And I think the guys that eventually will give him a run for his money are these guys like Logan and these guys like Bryan that have the size, they have the height, they've got crazy structure. And in Bryan's case, has this crazy roundness like he's a men's open guy. It's insane. Now, next up in the news, also in Arnold Classic news, unfortunately, one of the bodybuilders that was invited to compete at the Arnold Classic, Lionel Beyeke, is out of the 2021 Arnold Classic. Now, I kind of had a feeling this would happen because the past few shows that Lionel had committed to competing in, he's kind of done this same thing and dropped out at the last minute. Now, I know he did run into some kind of legal issues a couple years back. Him and Eric Favre, the other French bodybuilding guy on the French bodybuilding scene. There's some legal issues going on with that. I don't know if all that stuff is wrapped up. I don't know if all that stuff, if Lionel is past that. I don't know if that has anything to do with him necessarily pulling out of this year's Arnold Classic, but this is not the first Arnold Classic he's pulled out of. So I haven't really given Lionel that much coverage lately because I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen again. Lionel is a guy, he's a wild card in any lineup. If he comes in shape, he's got crazy proportions, he's got crazy structure. The guy looks fantastic, but conditioning has always been his issue. But unfortunately, this year is out. He says, from the desk of Lionel, please read below. I want to thank all of you, my supporters, followers, and fans for all the encouragement. It is truly priceless. I had planned to make 2021 a special year because of all the difficulties brought on by the pandemic. Let me kind of fast forward this a little bit here. Unfortunately, the scourge of the virus has prevented French citizens from gaining entry into the U.S. in time for me to compete and achieve my objectives. One of these objectives I've not been able to fulfill is to be able to participate in the Arnold Classic 2021 this year. This is a regret that I must put behind me as I continue to work hard and even better for the upcoming competitions, which I hope to be able to attend. So essentially, he's saying this is a travel-related thing, possibly a visa-related thing that's preventing him from coming to the United States and competing in the Arnold. Whatever it is, it's disappointing. I wanted to see him on stage. I wanted to see what he could do finally at the Arnold Classic, but it looks like we're not going to get that opportunity this year. All right, now next up in the news, also in Arnold Classic news, Nick Walker, who is one of the bigger names going into this Arnold Classic that a lot of people are talking about as a potential top 6 guy, a potential winner of the show, posting his own physique updates at 11 days out from the Arnold Classic, less than 2 weeks away from seeing Nick on stage again. Now, the first thing that jumps out to me, especially in this first picture, is the separation in Nick's chest. The amount of detail that you can see in Nick's physique is really impressive here. He's always been crazy vascular. That's always been kind of a subjective marker of conditioning. But when you consider the fact here that Nick is not under any type of goon light, it's very unflattering lighting. You consider the fact that Nick is known kind of for being a mass monster, kind of this freaky muscular guy. His conditioning is looking really, really impressive, and this is what we want to see from Nick. Honestly, I think Nick's chances at the Arnold Classic, things are looking really good for Nick. Everything that I've seen from Nick so far has actually really impressed me. I haven't seen a physique update from Nick since he's been pro that has been underwhelming or that hasn't been exciting or that hasn't been impressive. That to me is just how big of a freak Nick is. And I'm excited to see him on stage with the best of the best. This Arnold Classic is going to put Nick next to bodybuilders that Nick wasn't next to at the New York Pro. This show will be putting Nick next to top caliber, top Olympia placers. This is going to be the real test of how good is Nick really. And I'm excited to see what the answer to that question is. I saw a comment on one of my videos the other day, and I think they summed it up really well. And they said they think the hype around Nick is getting so big because he's one of the newer hyped up guys. He's one of the only newer hyped up guys that has really delivered on the hype. Nick, after his pro debut, had a ton of hype. After Chicago, the hype train for Nick was huge. The guy's a freak. He looks crazy. He looked good next to other top pros. But then when he came in and delivered on that hype and won the third biggest show in bodybuilding, the New York Pro, he's one of the only ones that do that. A lot of bodybuilders that have crazy structures or great genetics or look great on Instagram get hyped up all throughout the year, all throughout the season, and then they never deliver. So people are saying the hype with Nick is because he actually delivered immediately on his second pro show, winning the New York Pro. His third pro show, he's going to the Arnold. His fourth pro show, he's going to the Olympia, and that's why people are impressed. Because you can't knock the guy. He's actually doing it. He's delivering. And we're going to find out in 11 days if he can deliver on that Arnold Classic stage as well. Now, next up in the news, we are just days away. The 18th is Thor Bjornsson's big fight with none other than Devon Larratt. Now, recently in a video, Eddie Hall weighed in on this matchup, and this is what Eddie had to say. A lot of people found this to be pretty interesting, so I wanted to share this with you guys as well.
Right in March?
No, I would pay good money to see Devon rip his chin off and take a piss on his face. Like, I seriously hate that man. Like, I don't want that guy to do well in anything in life. He doesn't deserve anything. He's a piece of shit. So, Devon, good luck. I hope you rip his fucking head off. And
thanks, buddy.
Who knows? After I've done beating the shit out of him as well, maybe me and you can have a little fisticuffs, eh?
And then, of course, you go from Eddie Hall's thoughts on the situation to the latest update from Thor, which is essentially just a physique update. Honestly, I think this fight is going to be interesting. I have no idea what kind of fighting skills or fighting background Devon Larratt has. I think it's a very oddball matchup. I think they're two very different type of athletes. They're both obviously very strong guys, Devon being an arm wrestler and dabbling in some powerlifting, and arm wrestling is a strength sport. But Thor being a former strongman, particularly deadlift world record holder, his type of strength is different. His type of athleticism is different, and obviously, he's the much bigger guy. Now, I believe they said this would be free to watch if you already paid for the Eddie Hall fight, and then you would get to watch the Eddie Hall fight as well for free. To be honest, I'm not going to be paying to watch this. If it's free to watch, I'm going to watch, but really, I don't think there's any real beef between him and Devon. I don't really see why. It's just a weird matchup to me. It doesn't really excite me. I mean, I definitely want to see Thor versus Eddie. I'll definitely be watching that. But this one, I'm probably going to skip this one, to be honest. I'm probably not going to watch this thing live, even if it is free. Honestly, I'm just not that interested in this one. I definitely want to see Thor versus Eddie, but this is not it. Now, that being said, Thor looks fantastic in this physique update, and he has continued to impress me. With the vast changes and improvements he's been able to make to his physique from a conditioning standpoint, getting his weight down for this fight, stripping off not only fat but muscle for this fight, really downsizing and working on his speed, working on his conditioning. Being lighter is going to work to his advantage in this match, and in boxing, more so than it's basically the complete opposite of what strongman was for him. The bigger and heavier you are, essentially, the more weight you can lift. So it's kind of the opposite of what you need for each sport. But in any case, best of luck to Thor Bjornsson and Devon Larratt in this upcoming fight, which I believe is this Saturday. And the final story that I have for you guys today, Hunter Labrada posting his own physique update, this time actually pictures. We know that he just did the guest posing. We talked about that in the last video, but these pictures give you a lot more clear image, no pun intended, of how Hunter is actually looking at this point in his prep for the Olympia. Now, I saw a lot of people commenting the last video thinking Hunter is doing the Arnold. Hunter is not going to be in the Arnold Classic lineup. He is prepping for the Olympia, so he is 4 weeks out from that show. Now, honestly, I think he looks really good here. I think he looks better at this point in his prep than he looked at 4 weeks out from the Chicago Pro. I think he looks better here. He looks leaner here. He looks sharper here than he looked when he was a month out from that show, which I think is a good thing. And I think really he's going to improve upon his placing from last year, where he took 8th at last year's Olympia. I think we could see him in the top 6. I've said this many times in past videos. I really think this Olympia is going to be the Olympia that signifies a shift, a paradigm shift in the younger generation. This year, I think is going to take over a lot of those top Olympia spots, and I'm talking about top 6 placers. We're going to see some new names, and I think this year is going to be a big one when it comes to the up-and-coming generation of bodybuilders. This one's going to be huge. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What are your guys' Olympia predictions? Comment down below. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It really helps out a lot. It pushes the video into the algorithm more, so make sure you smash that thumbs up button. It really does help. It's free, it's easy, so just do it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. As always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.